Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. Everything starting quite well. I don't need to introduce myself because you just saw the trailer for my name. But basically, I'm Patrick Doan. I'm Canadian, and I've been working in motion graphics since before it was called motion graphics, since 2002. And I'm really happy to be here in Prague at the festival. So thanks for the organizers and for everyone for making this happen. With the pandemic and lockdown, it's actually like you start to appreciate moving again, right? So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about too, about the experience of having to adjust the work that you're doing during lockdown. And I guess I'm lucky because I work in graphics and I could work from home. So I've basically just improved my home office, but I still work on site for events and in the music industry. So this is kind of starting to come back again. But I guess what I could do is basically just start off with kind of where I'm coming from. Right now what you're seeing on the screen is some recent images of some work that I do. And I'm gonna basically talk about that a bit later as well. But I made an interesting format for this presentation. I didn't use like a slideshow program. I didn't feel comfortable using PowerPoint when I wanted to show some video, and I basically did an edit, like a 1-hour timeline in Premiere. So it's kind of like a really long YouTube video where you're watching someone talk. And there's actually a lot of content, so you don't really need to absorb everything, but you just need to understand the whole experience of what I'm trying to say. So there's a lot to go through, but I think if it gets too long, I'm just gonna try to fast forward a little bit. So first legs. Like a lot of people that are doing the work today in graphics and visuals, they had to start somewhere. So a lot of my inspiration was manga and Japanese animation, and I had access to this in Canada because we had places where we could rent this stuff in the 90s, and my brother had a Japanese ex-girlfriend, and her sister would send stuff like on these VHS tapes. And I would get stuff that was showing like in real time in some ways with what was happening over there. So I was exposed to this culture quite early, and it was interesting, to be exposed to this aspect of Japanese culture because growing up in Canada, I was used to like this multicultural sense, and then I'm not Japanese, but I'm Asian, and it was interesting to see this stuff being made by like other Asian people. And culturally, the work that they're doing is not really the same. So it was kind of interesting to have that aspect of my influences. And then of course there's movies and sci-fi. I think, and then obviously there's music. Most of the electronic music scene that I was into was coming from Europe, and now I live in Berlin, Germany. So we're kind of spoiled where I guess everyone has an opinion on like what's good or what's current, but it's good to have access to this culture and to participate in this culture as well. Obviously, there's the music videos that I saw in the early 2000s, like Björk, work by Chris Cunningham, the Gans Graf video on Warp Records, and I think this was kind of the foundation also because that's when we started to get internet access, and then I could, download software and then, reproduce what I saw online. So a lot of people were sharing work online, like the real OGs in graphic design. So that was a huge influence, obviously, and it kind of made me think, I could do what they're doing at home in, my parents' basement, and then almost do the same thing. So, everyone started with Photoshop, I'm sure, right? And then with Macromedia Flash. So I did a lot of Flash animations too. I wish I kept all this stuff, but I lost a lot of data in like a hard drive crash. So I always thought that I would keep making new content anyway, so. So I guess one of the best ways to introduce myself is just to show a new reel of my work, which is actually, we're actually going through the work that I'm doing currently. So I work in the music and events industry. I started off doing work for like music pop stars, I guess, from the US. And it kind of came to me because I was working as a VJ. And then I think a lot of people who were working as VJs wanted to actually make money, not just do like club events or for art galleries. And I think it was just at a merging point where the graphic quality was good enough that you could do stuff for like TV. And that's how it started, and it kind of rolled quite quickly, where I started doing a lot of projects per year, and then I started to get used to this rhythm, and then working on site on these projects, that was also quite nice. Being able not just to work from the studio, but then actually having an effect on culture by going on site with the artists, and then working in a team like very long hours all night long to make sure that the show runs. So I've done a bit of everything from graphic design, 2D, 3D animation, and short films too. And then, like stuff for like broadcast TV as well. And then now recently with the lockdown, with the pandemic, people started to do like these online streams with like extended reality, like with green screen or with the Unreal Engine. So I started to slowly get into that as well. I'm still learning. But I think it's definitely the future, like what Peter mentioned as well. This is kind of where the tech is at, and it's great that you could do this live in real time and not having to wait for renders. But the issues with real time are actually quite different as well. So these are just previews of recent work that I've done. And what's coming up next is my show reel. I did something in the esports world as well last year. This is kind of a picture of the set that was streamed from Berlin. And I did the logo animations like this here. It's funny, like you find on stock footage websites your own content that you had to buy. I couldn't really find it in my own content, but I found this. So that was quite interesting to buy your own stuff. But I obviously just made a screenshot. So this is me in like my home studio. So it's been quite fun. I just, you're just trying to keep yourself busy. And I've been looking at lots of YouTube videos of people streaming online, like people on Twitch, and they all got these really cool home offices. And I thought, well, how long is this lockdown and the pandemic about to last? And I started slowly buying stuff, and then it kind of just all ended up at the same time. Just bought a lot of stuff, and then it's stuff that I could use too, actually, And a lot of the technique that I learned in 3D goes back into the real world, like the way that I light my stuff. It's just almost the same concept. So that's been quite fun, just keeping myself busy, and I'm planning also to do some presentations on YouTube about my work, so that's something to look forward to later on. All right, so finally would be the demo reel. So this is actually my recent work using the software Notch, which is a real-time motion graphics engine, and it kind of changed my working life because this is what I mainly use, and you could essentially do motion graphics content and see the updates live. So I've been really busy using this software for the last 3 years that I've been using it, and what you're going to see in the show reel is actually not the client work. It's not really the focus of the talk today. So it's because I'm an artist, I like to do my own work with other music artists. So what you'll see is a kind of a mix of that, kind of my own work, working with music artists mainly. Let's try to lower the volume here. Oh wait, I think I need to output the audio. Thank you. Yeah, so that's kind of the recent work that I've been doing, and it's been fun using this Notch software because you can make multiple versions of your scenes very, very, very quickly. I think I'll show you briefly the website so you know what it is. Can I do this? Oops. Yeah, it seems like the output is in HD, but my screen is actually 4K, so. I'm trying to get there. Sorry. This, can I do full screen? Oh yes, but that comes later. Okay, wait. Okay. Yeah, this is what Notch looks like. It's like node-based, like a touch designer. And it's mainly used for really like big projects. So I wouldn't recommend coming from Notch just like that. You kind of have to know a little bit of everything else before you get into the software. But I'm going to talk about my work in Notch later. But first, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite subject, the metaverse, or apparently what a lot of tech companies want us to think about these days. I think it became popular because, again, because of the pandemic, and everyone's been stuck at home, doing lots of Zoom calls and consuming culture online. And it was bound to happen at some point anyway. I think in some ways it's probably too early. So we're all like, oh, really? Like this metaverse? I've seen it in The Matrix. I've seen it in a bunch of other movies and books. But the thing is, like now it's 2022, and it's probably like really happening. Just probably not the way that we thought it would, you know. But maybe it is because it's through large American tech companies who want to push this idea of consuming their software through the internet in a more immersive experience, which is obviously a very cool idea. But do you want to be on the Facebook network or on the Microsoft network and not be able to explore other aspects? So this is stuff that I'm going to try to think about, or that I learned quite a bit about when I did my explorations on the internet about what is the metaverse and why people want it. And there's various aspects as a consumer, as a working content maker. I think there's different ways that the metaverse could be interesting. It doesn't have to be as scary as people think it is, but you know, it's just like when the iPhone came out. You know, it was groundbreaking, and then came the apps, and then all this obsession about spending too much time on the iPhone or your smartphone basically is a problem. So it's about self-control. So the same thing applies to the metaverse as well as how much time do you spend in this world. Yeah, this is what I didn't really want to talk about, but Justin Bieber is in the metaverse, right? Unfortunately, this is where culture is going. And, you know, maybe this is for my niece and nephew, but I think I would like to work on this kind of project, but it's just interesting to see how it's happening and people participate, so there's definitely like a scene for this. And Travis Scott in Fortnite, which was like, I think in 2021, was it last year or 2020? But this was a huge deal. I think this is what kicked off the parties in the metaverse on gaming networks and stuff, so yeah. But let's explore about what is the metaverse in theory. A metaverse is a network of 3D virtual worlds focused on social connection. In futurism science fiction, it is often described as a hypothetical iteration of the internet as a single universal virtual world that is facilitated by the use of virtual and augmented reality headsets. This is what's totally happening right now. Now, the metaverse word itself was actually coined apparently in the book Snow Crash in 1992. And I used to read a lot, but unfortunately I never read this book. I read other books around this culture. But in this book, the metaverse, a phrase coined by Stevenson as a successor to the internet, constitutes Stevenson's early 1990s vision of how a virtual reality-based internet might evolve in the near future. So that is like word for word exactly what we're experiencing with what is what the big tech companies want to push as the metaverse, right? Interestingly, Snow Crash never made it into like popular culture. It's not really a movie or a TV series, but it obviously inspired a lot of movies. But I read that HBO is working on a TV series coming out possibly next year already. So it's just, all this stuff is timing. They're just waiting until the people are ready and that the culture is there. Before the metaverse, in the 80s and 90s, there was BBS. I don't know if anyone was around using like IRC chat, but I used this in the 90s. It was fun. It was a fun way to actually find ways to download stuff like Wares, if like you still know what that is, and Netscape. And this is kind of like, early versions of, the internet is the metaverse in some ways, right? It's just like the incipient version. Alta Vista. That went away because it was replaced by Google. But there is still a history of like these metaverse projects like The Sims, which is a game, but it kind of was about doing boring real life things in the virtual world. Second Life, World of Warcraft, which was a big hit. I have some friends that work in the gaming industry, and one friend was playing World of Warcraft, and through him I just heard about people getting married through World of Warcraft, through this common interest of gaming, and I thought that was interesting as a culture. I was never into online gaming. I prefer games where you have goals in some ways, and all of these online games are just like you just have to kill things to like progress in the game, which is a little bit strange, right? PlayStation also had a short-lived thing, PlayStation Home. I think visually it was actually quite cool, but it was still too early on PlayStation 3. You had to download it. VR chat, this is obviously more recent. I tried this for a little bit. It gets a bit chaotic, it's just not really serious. You use this with a headset. But next is the metaverses of 2022. So first is the rebranding of Facebook to Meta. Basically, it's the collection of services that Facebook bought and now owns is now rebranded under Meta. And I guess that essentially means that they know what's coming up and they want to push this as much as possible. They spent a lot of money buying current tech and then doing research. There's lots of work behind the scenes, obviously. I have an Oculus Rift headset that I bought in 2019. And I had fun playing some games and stuff, but it does get tiring after like an hour and a half, I find. But yeah, I know. This is the metaverse that you want. It's kind of like this TV series Black Mirror. Everything it looks really nice on the surface, but there's a really deep, dark underbelly that you don't want to know about. And I think that's kind of where we're going if we let this out of control through these big tech companies as well, right? So self-moderation is super important, but this is what Facebook is trying to pitch. And this is just a promotional film. And I'm just going to pause this. You can be different avatars, but what I like is how you can basically inject a real version of yourself. So like this person here is just a scan for it. I want to see more of that, and we haven't seen much of that in the proposals of what the metaverse is. But it's a cool idea, because we've experienced this pandemic. We had to find ways to continue communicating and working. And I think it's good to have the option to work virtually from home and to have this level of quality to work. But then there's like privacy issues. It's like, you don't want to wear your headset when you're on the toilet, right? And then someone just says hello to you. So these are issues that they're working out. But I like this idea, of having just to work from home anywhere, basically. And it's a perfect world. Everyone knows what they're doing. But we're not there yet, I think. But this is like a proof of concept in some ways, right, of what the metaverse, or one aspect of it, could actually be. Yeah. This is actually what some of the software this is one of the apps that you could download, basically, and this is what the graphics really look like. It's not that great. I'm a bit disappointed, really. But the thing is that it's streaming data online, so a lot of it is through the limitations of the internet right now. So that's another aspect that needs to be worked out. Next is Microsoft Mesh. I like the visual aspect of this promotion. It feels more like you're using more like people's real bodies in this virtual space, and you're trying to connect with people through collaboration. And it's not as cute looking as the meta aspect of the metaverse. So this feels more like it's collaborative, and it's actually, the headset is also different. It's about wearing this HoloLens, which is a layer of graphics. It's a layer of reality that you overlay, and I like this feeling better than wearing like a closed headset and you're stuck in this really tight screen space. But that might be good for like other options as well. So I think having options to experience the metaverse is always good. But I think this idea of using headsets that are like a pair of glasses would actually be the best solution in some ways, because then you're layering like a graphical reality in real time with the real world. But unfortunately, that was like a concept trailer, but this is the actual graphics again. It's really like cute looking, and like it just, once again, it just needs to stream smoothly. So I think that they do this low polygon texture cute design so that everyone looks friendly. And it just has to work. That's where we're at. Like these headsets, like the HoloLens, is not really for consumer use yet. They're actually quite expensive. But the idea is there, right? I think it would be great if, this is already in the works, but they're going to have different ways to interact with the metaverse, not just headsets, but gloves and like full body suits, like with Xsense, which is what they use for motion capture. But then I think at some point it'll be used for consumer use as well. Yeah, creepy, right? You don't want to see this at 3 in the morning when you're working late. Next is NVIDIA Omniverse. This is a more practical use of the metaverse. That's what they call it too, but it's Omniverse because it's a collection of software, 3D software that you can run through a hub in real time, and you don't need to like export and re-import into different software. It just runs through their Omniverse platform. Like this. It's kind of hard to explain unless you actually use it. I haven't been able to find any clear video that really explains clearly. They just show you like stuff done in Unreal and in 3D software, Blender, Substance, but it's been a little bit confusing to know what the Omniverse is, but it's essentially just a hub and some AI-driven apps that allow you to accelerate certain ways of working as well. once again, I think it's cool. This stuff is all happening at the same time. We're at a point where the technology is just changing quickly, and I think, once again, that the pandemic proved that we need better ways to work in real time. And once we get faster internet, and now computers are not as expensive as they used to be, and even stuff on the phone is really good, so you could do all this stuff at home, as long as you take time to learn this technique and software. It's skills that you're going to be using for the next 10 years or so, for sure. This is more graphs that I found, but it was just a little bit abstract. This is some of the collection of software that's already working with Omniverse, and I was actually quite surprised. I actually read about this previously, but Notch is actually going to work in Omniverse. So I don't know what they have in mind, but I'm assuming that you'll be able to maybe make a nice detailed 3D scene in Unreal and then do motion graphics in Notch and then have this played together in real time. So that's kind of the missing link that I've been missing in many ways, because I like what you could do in Unreal, but it's still not designed for like abstract graphic design stuff, and not just made for that. And they're both real-time software, so I don't know, but I think that they're planning to make an announcement soon about this for sure, so that's pretty cool. So let's talk about the metaverses that exist right now. Decentraland. These are like these online play spaces where, yeah, I actually tried this, and so you'll see a little bit of that later. But it's basically a new economy, a new way to like game and share content, like these NFTs. They had like these NFT parties and like dance concerts, and I just really can't see myself at the level of graphical quality to do this on a daily basis. So this is like plots of land that you could buy on the network as well. So apparently people are making money off of the metaverse already. This is a deadmau5 concert, this Canadian EDM artist, and that was a big hit, apparently. The next video is actually, I made a test for you, so that's me in the metaverse in Decentraland. I was expecting more people. I was expecting more people to like hang out with, but I think there's like timed events, right? So you kind of join into these timed events, and then that's when everyone shows up. But otherwise, there's lots of bots that you talk to, and people who are like me or are new, just browsing around, trying to find themselves in the metaverse and trying to find themselves goals. But that's kind of my challenge with this concept right now, is that I don't know what to do with this yet. It's cool that it's all in 3D and that you could have fun in this, but I think it's the services and software have to be there at some point. So I'm going to stop that there, because so you load scenes through your browser, basically, which is cool though that it runs like that. Next is the Sandbox. This is actually the most popular online virtual world. It's kind of inspired by Minecraft in terms of the 3D pixel voxel layout, but you create spaces, and then you can sell them as well, and then you can have your parties in the Sandbox. But it's mostly focused on gaming, and that's where they're making most of the money, so that's why it's doing quite well. Yeah, so there's lots of big brands that are coming into the metaverse space, and this is what's going to help push the mass adoption of the metaverse. And this is what they're this is the main issue too, is that people like Paris Hilton need to be in the metaverse for people to get interested, unfortunately. And I think it just needs to be popular. But the next big issue is actually with the headsets. So I'm sure you've kind of seen a bit of the different headsets available, but it's not a new concept. This is the Virtual Boy. I think it came out like in the mid-90s. But yeah, it was red. It gave people a headache. This is from the 60s, the Sensorama. Yeah, this is Google Eyeglass, was it? Or Glass? So that was kind of short-lived too, and people were scared because you could scan people or take photos of them. This is an interesting timeline of the different headsets through the decades, actually. So it's definitely not a new thing. But basically, it's all about having your eyes on a screen. So people who are fortunate enough to have eyes could experience this. But there's a limitation to what you could do with these headsets, and I think we're at a point where we're going to reach this peak of the hardware, and I think that we need to find some new hardware aspects also. But what I actually did through my research is I found the most expensive headset that you could buy. But for the Oculus Quest 2, the resolution is 1832 by 1920, so that's like a little bit above HD per eye. But I found something else called the Vario, which is, it's like a big black box, but it's aimed for the professional market, and it's to enhance your current workflow and to try to design objects in AR and in virtual reality, and it's not cheap, but it's cool. It would be great if the Oculus Quest 2 versions coming up have this level of detail. I'm just going to skip to the specs. So yeah, you need to have almost 6,000 euros to buy the Vario XR3, and actually that's just the base price. You also need to have a subscription of 1,500 euros. I forgot to take a screenshot of that, but yeah, so you need to pay annually that amount plus the base amount of 6,000 euros. So it's definitely not for the consumer market, but if you're serious about AR and VR, then this is the headset that you would probably need. And the specs are actually quite high. It's like almost 4K. There's actually 2 layers of lenses. One is like above HD, but then there's the peripheral area, which is 2080 by 2720. And so this is kind of the side of your eyes, and that actually helps feel like you don't see the pixels anymore, this level of detail. So that's quite cool. So I guess the next question is, who wants the metaverse? Well, I think you'll want it when it's actually there, but I think once again, we've experienced a lot of time working from home, and we want some new ways to have communication. And new ways would be, to push the technology, because we're working through technology. Like I'm talking to you through showing work on my laptop, and I don't want to have to sit all the time here and then just do my work like this. If you can work with a headset that feels really comfortable and that you're almost not wearing it, then that would be a nice experience. But yeah, I think a lot of people think that they can make money in this metaverse, and I think it's already happening. But you really need to be like into crypto, because most of the exchanges are into this cryptocurrency. And then there's shopping like Walmart VR. So it sounds funny, but it's just all gonna become normal possibly soon, right? But I think what I've learned is that people still want to continue having access to culture online, and we already do that, like watching videos on YouTube and streaming. And I think the next level is that we're going to be in this virtual world where you can, connect with your idols and then have a virtual representation of them and feel like you're in the same space as them. So I think this idea of the virtual idol is not exactly new, but it's cool that it's actually happening. It's fun, you know. The technology has to be entertaining for you to grab onto it, but then once it's fun and entertaining, like what comes next? Well, could I do some interesting work in it? So as a creator, that's what I want to know also, whether I can make some interesting content in the metaverse. Is the metaverse forever? Well, the answer is probably yes too, right? It's just still too early to say. Like, the internet seems like it's forever, ever since we've had it in the mid-90s. And now what the tech companies are proposing is that we use this technology and we can live in it in some ways, but then it comes down again to self-control, you know? And right now, the metaverse is just kind of clunky. And I think once the technology merges from headsets to like body tracking, and gaming also has really great graphics these days, so that's why a lot of money is being poured into gaming, into Unreal, and it's going to influence a lot of how we experience this virtual space as well. So we're already talking about working in the metaverse and a new economy. That's what happened with the smartphones, you know, buying stuff through your phone or with eBay and like Amazon. This stuff all went on. These services only exist because of the internet. So the metaverse is the next stage of making money in many ways. It's hard to visualize or to conceptualize right now, and it sounds kind of funny because we're just hearing about all these tech companies that are trying to get into it. But I think it'll take another few years once everything merges together in terms of tech and the headsets, and also like body tracking as well. I think it's quite cool, all the different demos that people are doing with like Unreal, and reusing this for projects. But most people experience the metaverse through like a flat screen, and this is what needs to change too, right? This is quite cool. This is a YouTuber, and he's doing this stuff live in real time in Unreal, and he has like he's using his phone for face tracking, and the rig looks very smooth. It's not a lot of wires. It's not really heavy, and it tracks really well through the iPhone and his body. So I thought that was quite cool. There's a lot of people doing a lot of tests online. The MetaHuman app by Unreal, I haven't tried it much yet. I haven't had a need to actually use it, but I think I'm going to get into it once I get deeper into Unreal. But you know, people are having fun with creating their own virtual avatars. But I think if we could still use our own real bodies rather than having to make copies, I think that could be even more of like a natural experience. Yeah, there's also this contact lens, which is next level, which is what we should be doing. A little bit scary, but it's like AR. It's like a layer of reality that you put through your eye with a contact lens. This is a video that just came out like last night, so I did this right before the presentation, so this is like fresh news here. All right, so that's my crash course on the metaverse. I think it's interesting. It's also kind of funny and clunky, and but I started doing my own experiments in the metaverse, or inspired by using this Kinect camera, and I was invited to do some like online streams, and then to use my skills in Notch to create a series of virtual shows or like events or parties, And that's what I'm going to show you right now in the software Notch, actually. So this is kind of the fun part of the presentation where I'm showing actual work. Okay. There might be some issues. I just have too many windows open. I'm going to close some stuff. Yeah. Okay, cool. This is like me right now, live. Great. So it worked better than I thought. I don't need to adjust that much. But basically, I'm using this Connect. This is for an event I did in 2020 for a festival called Wise that's based in China, but the creator is German and he lives in Berlin now. We need to find ways to, oh, hello? Microphone, okay. Okay. Yeah, so in the background there's photos of the speakers. And yeah, I just had fun creating this space. And there's music that's mixed by my Japanese friend in Berlin, Yu, who makes electronic music, and he just made a short mix of music. I don't know if it's, oh, I need to connect the audio from Notch, so let's see if that works. Settings. Audio playback. Do we hear it? No. There's too much connection going on here. I could turn off the ambient music. Maybe the volume here is not loud enough. Okay, cool. The audio now? Okay. Yeah, so this is the scene I made in Notch, and it was just a virtual space. I added a lot of, the inspiration for the scene is kind of like how I'm working on site on like a music tour. It's just like when you're backstage, there's a lot of people busy doing stuff in their own little bubble, and this is literally what's happening. Everyone is behind their screens and they're just busy walking around, trying to get to the next task and stuff. And so it's a mix of that, and I added some graphics that react to the audio, so you'll see it move more once the audio gets more intense. But yeah, so it's fun to do this stuff in real time, because I could add a bunch of effects and just having it run. And I like the idea that I could add camera angles and then make it more of like a movie-like experience rather than just like first-person view, which gives me a headache after a while. Obviously, you need to have like first-person view in the headset, but in this case, I'm just showing like some kind of concept where you're just watching as a third person this whole experience. And also like my background in like film is also just, I like to see nice camera angles, so that's quite important. So I have a library of assets, and I just made a mashup of stuff in the scene, and you know, literally on my virtual laptop here. You see the particles react live, which is quite cool, which is what I love doing. I just like seeing all this movement, and you can do that quite easily. I'll try to show you the user interface. If I could maybe clone the screen after. But I'll just give you a run through here. So there's a bunch of particle effects and models that I downloaded online. And like the 3D tables are from a kit batch set. And then once again, the speakers at this online conference in 2020. And yeah, you just kind of see, it's kind of like an art experience. You don't really need to look at it 100%. It's just something that runs in the background. I like this idea of having a big screen maybe in the space, you know, just on this wall, and just having this run while there's a party going on or something. You know, it's just cool to feel like you're in the moment. And then that's what I like about using Notch, is that you're experiencing the graphics live. It's not playback. And it's always like a new version because it's not perfect either. So there's this aspect of like imperfect because it's live. I can even make some adjustments to the scene right now. So like I could change the color of the particles. So this is the purple one. Go for red. I can make them really thicker. Or just add a lot more. Amazingly, the scene runs really smoothly on my laptop. I was a bit worried, but this is a new laptop I got right before Christmas, actually. I was quite lucky. But I did this scene on an old laptop that I've had since 2017. Since 2017. So I was really pushing the limit of this old laptop with an old graphic card, and it really felt like it was going to fly off the table because of the fans, right? But this laptop has been quite quiet. It's amazing. So we're still kind of bound to technology, and I think, but now with like newer machines and hardware, you can make this level of content now, and having it run in 4K at a really fast frame rate. So that's quite cool. So one cool thing that I did also, I could actually change the textures of the speakers. This is just, I just imported, I actually made a looping video in After Effects. So it's just a texture running on like a 3D plane. So I'm gonna replace this with something else that's in context with the conference. So there you go. This video is now like a Mouvo video, and there you go. Done super easily. I'm going to try to show you the user interface, but I actually need to update the output, so I'm going to clone the screen. Let's see if this works. Cool. So this is what I'm seeing now. Louder? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so this is the user interface. If you're familiar with Touch Designer or like any other node-based graphical software, the concepts are quite similar. Everyone that uses Notch has their own way of organizing their node graph, which is what this area is called. But everything starts with the logo, this notch here, and then so you connect everything from there. And I have the cameras in this part, in the top left. There's multiple cameras, and I made a system where I could switch between cameras. You could connect all these parameters to an external controller. So I didn't have time to plan that, but you could do that quite easily. So you can have it connected to like a user interface on your tablet or like a piece of hardware, and then you don't even have to touch your laptop anymore. So that's actually quite cool. Yeah. That's the cameras and lights here, so I could adjust this in real time. See the blue wall. And this red. So it's reacting to the bass and the audio. You can have audio react to various frequencies. You just have to tweak and tweak until you get the perfect amount of reaction. I have the character models. I can multiply this by a lot, and it's not going to slow down. Yeah, the idea with this concept was also because during the pandemic we had to stay at home and we were not allowed to meet people. So the idea was that you have all these virtual characters like really tight in a space. Like that seemed controversial at the time because we were not allowed to be next to people and like talk to them. So this was kind of like my answer was just to have this virtual space where you're hanging out virtually with the type of design that I would like to see. I think that's it for now. I mean, I covered a lot, and this is the end of my talk with this demo in Notch. So I hope that you enjoyed. It was a lot of information, and I learned some stuff also with the research, and I hope that you learned something too. If you have questions, then I'm around as well. So, thank you.